Hi, and welcome to the I T'd Myself podcast. My name is Matthew Miniman, and this is episode 142. What can goat testicles teach us about certifications? So, medicine across the entirety of human society, across the history of humanity, has been fraught with weirdos, wackos, charlatans, people looking to do harm, psychopaths, sociopaths, just a lot of people doing weird shit, looking to do something else. And then just a tiny fraction of people actually looking to help. You know, the Hippocratic Oath, that first part, do no harm. There's a lot of people who just ignore that when they go into medicine. And some actual doctors ignore that as well. But for the vast majority of doctors who are looking to help, the Hippocratic Oath reigns true. Do no harm. First, do no harm. But other than that, throughout the entirety of history, through human history across the planet, people have tried fooling others, treating people with poison, and sometimes it's even without knowledge. You know, it's just like, hey, we're just going to throw shit against the wall and see what sticks. Poisoning people or using essences to treat things, like the idea that if you dilute something 64,000 to 1, it's actually more potent and powerful than if you had given them the straight elixir. Looking at you, colloidal silver. And these are things that all really are quackery. It's the acts of charlatans. It's really odd behavior because there's no scientific backing behind it. There's no testing. There's no reproducible evidence, and it's very difficult for a lot of people to navigate this world. Seen by the fact that there's still a lot of these people doing this today. These purge or toxin, I don't know, cleansing diets and shit like that. These are all things that people buy real heavily into, and they don't do anything. There's a lot of science behind why these practices don't work. There's a placebo effect where it can make you feel like it's doing something and benefiting you in the way. And if that's worth the thousands of dollars you pump into the program, more power to you, as long as you know that. But there's a lot of people just doing weird shit, like real weird shit. Treating dietary issues with rat feces and things like that. There's just a ton of weird stuff. And beyond that, it's even like, look at all the dieting supplements that are out there, all of the collagen and low T. Like, that's a big thing now, is low T. There's so many goddamn low T places across just the city that I live in, that it's insane. And there are so many ads across the entirety of radio and TV about going and getting treated for these random medical practices. And if you watch TV, I don't know how many of you have actually watched real TV that has commercials still in it, but they're like 2/3 of the entirety of any broadcast, whether it be a sporting event or a fucking kids show or whatever. It's all just medicine, dietary drugs. Like, most of it is focused on medicine and medical stuff. And again, some of those people are probably legitimately trying to help, but there are a lot of people out there who are just really trying to take as much of your money as possible. And to kind of highlight this, one of the weirdest times in the United States history was the early 1900s, because we were coming really into our own as a society in showing an advancement in things of technology and medicine. And there was a lot of fervor around these new ideas about radiation and germs and molecules and atoms and all of that. And like, this is where a lot of the original science fiction comes from, and a lot of the ideas surrounding like Star Trek and Star Wars really start to collide. But in this world, there's also a lot of people who are like, well, what if I can make a fantastical claim? Who can fucking tell me that that claim is false? Who can say that claim is false? Because they can't prove it. Can't prove a negative. So, I'm just gonna throw shit against the wall. And maybe one of more salient point to all of this is to cover a specific subject in this, and that subject is John R. Brinkley. John R. Brinkley, born John Romulus Brinkley, and then changing his name later in life to John Richard Brinkley. Maybe he thought it was going to be less weird. I don't know. Maybe make him sound like less of a psychopath. He went by John R. Brinkley, which, that R really screams sociopath, psychopath, maybe even killer, murder. I don't know. Anyway, John Brinkley wanted to be a doctor. He really wanted to be a doctor and really had no path to get there. He really didn't have the training, the schooling, the knowledge, the skills. He didn't have any of that. He was kind of born middle class, didn't really have an idea of how to get into medicine, didn't really have an apprenticeship anybody he could apprentice under. He wasn't going to school. He didn't have that great of grades. But he found a college that would take him and give him a degree, get him an MD. And that is the university, the Kansas Eclectic Medicine University. Don't know how much that screams bullshit, but eclectic medicine does not sound like something that I would enroll in if I were going to look for healing. Like if I'm serious about healing, I probably wouldn't look for eclectic. That doesn't scream great. Anyway, he got a degree from the Eclectic University of Kansas. And he decided that he wanted to pursue a particular venture of medicine, and that was treating male health issues, what we would consider male health issues today. But back then it was really more about the conception of children. And some people are born infertile, some others have issues with other parts of their reproductive systems. And John really wanted to solve all those problems for men. Like, he didn't really want to solve those for the women. Fuck the women. I mean, like, really fuck the women, but fuck the women. We don't want to deal with them. Let's focus on the male part of this process. And what he did is really kind of odd, because it wasn't just like, hey, let's try to get your testosterone up. Let's get you exercise. Let's get you eating right. No, it wasn't any of that normal doctor bullshit. You get told that every day by the doctor. Nah, dude, what we're going to do is we're going to go out to my farm, and you see that goat, we're going to let you pick a goat out there. And I want you to go pick a male goat. And we're going to chop its testicles off. And with those goat gonads, you know what we're going to do? No, you're not going to eat them. That would be too simple. Eating them only temporarily boosts your testosterone. What we're going to do is we're going to put you under, and we're going to slit your scrotum open, and we're going to shove some male balls in, or we're going to shove some goat balls in you. I'm going to sew you up, make sure that they're kind of grafted into the other testicles and the bloodstream and all that. And then you're going to be good to go. You're going to go have some fun with your wife. And 9 months down the road, you're going to have a baby. And that is the entirety of how John Brinkley approached the entire medical application, which is really weird because, like, with these eunuch goats, taking these testicles from these eunuch goats and putting them into men, I don't know really what he was trying to accomplish. There's no real scientific backing about how this would work and how this would improve the male reproductive system at all. Like, there's no science behind it. It's just him throwing shit against the wall and thinking it's going to work. I don't even know how he got the idea in the first place. Maybe he was thinking about how to make caprids, half men, half goats, but whatever. It's fine, I guess. His deal. But, he kind of demonstrates just in a general way about how much bullshit there is out there, specifically for like medical professionals. It's not necessarily always medical professionals, but there's a lot of people out there who are really just trying to take advantage of you, or who are coming from a place of knowledge and not really talking about, anything that they should be talking about, podcasters included. This is a scenario where John Brinkley really didn't do any of the back end work. He didn't do any studies. He didn't try to do any scientific experimentation. He didn't try to reproduce any sort of findings in any sort of way. He just kind of went with it and then kept on going. And, that's kind of just his whole like scheme. And it's really weird because John Brinkley is a weird dude. Like I could talk for hours about this dude because he's just so fucking weird. He was one of the first guys that had the border blaster radio stations up front, sat on the Mexican border and could broadcast radio stations across basically the entirety of the United States. He was one of the first guys who pioneered that, which is weird. It was basically the Alex Jones of 1920. This is a weird fucking dude. And like goat balls aside, this dude had some stuff. Anyway, the whole point about this is that John really didn't receive any credentialing. Like he got it from a place that was like, yeah, here, just take your diploma and go practice medicine. We'll see what happens. Go give some guys some cocaine and whiskey. Spin that around. We'll watch. And this is kind of the behavior of some folks when it comes to credentialing. They think they can do the job because they have a want, but they don't necessarily have the skill or the drive to do it the right way. They just want to take shortcut upon shortcut to try to arrive to a destination. Again, podcasters included do this as well. And there's a whole concept around this where there are people who can talk the talk, but when it comes to actually doing, walking the walk or actually doing any of the activities that are necessary for that job, they fail miserably. We see this in a lot of places. And really in scope of this podcast, of this particular episode, it's IT folk. There have been a lot of companies that I have had to take on as clients where they previously had some guy who was a friend of a friend, a niece's brother or whatever, niece's brother's cousin's uncle, whatever. Just some dude who they hired through some scheme, and like he was just a computer dude, or this guy was the one who knew how to print a PDF the most smoothly, so he was made the IT guy. There are a lot of people, a lot of organizations that go through this kind of circumstance, and the guy who they put into this, I don't want to say that they believe that they have the wits about them, because a lot of times they know they're out of their depth, but they're like, I don't have a choice. I need to do my job. And this is now part of my job that I got thrown into, and they want to do a good job, but they don't necessarily have the skill, the tool sets to accomplish that task. And that's where we get into actual like certifications and credentialing. Now, early on in my career, back when I was, young and not really competent in how to approach management in a situation or things like that, run a business at all, I was wholly against certifications, because certifications do not provide a practical application for any of the knowledge that you may have. They are only good about the theoretical knowledge of doing applications. It is much more important to have the practical application of skills than it is to have these amorphous, nebulous skills that don't really mean anything in the real life. And to an extent, that is still true. Certifications really don't do anything to prove that that you can, or how to do and when to do certain things. They only display that that things need to be done and in the order that they're supposed to be. It's effectively parroted. You can be a parrot when it comes to certifications. So it's not just about having the certification. In the case of John Brinkley, he had credentialing. It was just shit credentialing. It's also about having the skill and the experience to then use that knowledge in the right way. And that's the important part of the certification identification. You can't just say, I have these certifications. You also have to back that up with experience. Like, I've got this experience. This is what I have. And it's kind of a catch-22 because, employers won't hire without certification and experience, but I can't get the experience without an employer, and I can't get the certification without being able to pay my bills. So yeah, there's a lot of catch-22 with it, but this is where the IT, cybersecurity, this is where the whole industry of technology and security comes into focus. And we really need as an industry to understand whether or not we are going to be a professional or a trade, or if we're going to be a profession or a trade. And the difference between profession and trade is, or it can be subtle, but it is very distinct. A profession is a practice of hiring people with degrees. They have a degree, we can hire them. We require a master's degree, and we can go on from there. A trade, therefore, is I've had experience, I have trained under somebody, I know what I'm doing. Those are the differences. And right now, we're kind of in this middle ground where both are kind of true. We look for people who both have a degree and who have had experience and have trained under other people. The problem is that it is very difficult to find both characteristics in people who are looking for jobs, because typically people who have the skills and training necessary aren't looking for a job. They have the job that they want because they can just go and get it, right? Like, this is the whole concept, the whole idea is that it's very difficult to find these folks. And so the solution to this problem, this sort of enigma that we've created for ourselves in the IT industry, is to trust that our training processes are targeted towards how we would hire people. We need to change our training processes in the industry. Whether we're a profession or we're a trade, we need to fix our training processes so that we train people to the standard at which we would hire them. And that's it. The problem with that statement is that there are a lot of organizations that are like, we don't want to train somebody to our standard because they're going to stay for 18 months and then leave. And then we're going to have to train somebody else up, and it's going to take them 24 months, and then they'll only stay an extra 18 months, and then they're gone. And what I have to say to that is, if you build your business right, you don't have that problem, one. But two, if you constantly are having that churn, maybe that's an internal issue. Like, there are a lot of jobs out there where my company right now, we have our average tenure is something like 8 years. It's not a quick turnover rate. And it's partially because we move people up as they gain more skills, but it's also because we give them a reason to stay. So, but that's a whole like business ownership piece that Andrew will fucking talk to the ends of the earth about. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on the fact that credentialing is bullshit right now, because certifications do mean that you know what you're looking for. And you do need to have certifications if you're looking for a job. I require my technicians, my analysts, I require them to have a minimum level of certification before I will even consider hiring them. They need to have at least a Security Plus. Security Plus, all that means, honestly, if you don't know this, Security Plus is basically just, do you have common sense when it comes to cybersecurity? Because that's what Security Plus is. It's just, hey, do you know that you're not supposed to click on every link? How do you check to make sure that you're at the website you're actually supposed to be at? Like, how do you look for those things? That's essentially what Security Plus is. So you have to have that minimum level of certification achievement before I'm even willing to consider you as a hire. Beyond that, if you have any of the other certifications, obviously that changes things. It depends on what your role is what your role is and what you're looking for and what you're looking to do. So, that's part of it. But also, as part of the hiring process, we have to understand that when people have those certifications, that is the job that they are really kind of looking at and should be hired for. An analyst who has a CYSA, they are at the proper credentialing standard for their job, generally CYSA plus. And if you've got a CISSP or the offensive security certifications, can't remember what those are called right now, but if you have any of those are all good certifications for hire and more advanced engineering and architecture and VCISO servicing that you can provide and then offer and then have in your back pocket to provide for your security department. But it also goes to the actual tech side, A plus. Uh, there's not the MS MCSE, but they have Microsoft certs, MS 500, MS 100, MS 440, or whatever it is. These are all certifications you can get. And then having a degree in computer science or a degree in cybersecurity, those are good degrees to have. But I personally, as a hiring manager, am not going to really put much weight into your degree if you don't have the experience necessary to back that up. Same thing with certifications. If you have if you have a CISSP, but you have never worked a day in your life, I'm going to question whether you know what the hell you're doing. Obviously, it's going to come out in the interview, or at least I hope it will. But that's the point. Anyway, it's very easy for people to claim that they have the skills, and without certifications, it's very easy to then fool other people that you know what you're doing, especially if those people don't hire to the certifications that they should. So hiring managers need to pay attention to that. And like I said, John Brinkley is a prime example of this. He had a degree, kinda, but had no other medical credentialing. In fact, there's a scenario where the LA Times invited him to prove his operation by transplanting goat testicles into one of the editors at the LA Times. They had him prove it, and supposedly it was a success. And so they gave him all of this free press through this. And in the whole scenario of doing this, the California Medical Board had barred him from practicing medicine in California until the LA Times stepped in, because California was like, we don't recognize this eclectic university as legitimate. This isn't a legitimate credential. There's nothing here. He has to pass boards. Make him pass boards, and then maybe. So they barred him from practicing medicine. But then the LA Times interceded on his behalf and forced the California Medical Board to allow John R. Brinkley to practice medicine, to do this operation for this publicity stunt. And it's crazy because that's everything he was doing was bullshit, and it put people in danger. Honestly, there were dozens. I think the total death count that's under his knife was 41 people, and he was sued 35 different times later on in life, and basically died penniless because he got sued because he was practicing medicine essentially without a license, and he was doing things that were medically unnecessary and medically dubious in the first place. And he was doing all this because he was convinced he knew better than everybody else. Now, it's not just about their credentials. It's not just about getting credentials. It can be about the credentials you have. So, if you were looking to hire a cybersecurity specialist, you might not go and try to find somebody who's got system architecture design, because those are two separate parts of the same industry, right? Architecture and design is about designing systems and making sure they're built up right and having backups and all of the back-end stuff running as smoothly as possible, where cybersecurity is making sure that shit is safe, it's set up properly, and that policy and procedures are enforced. And while they have and share a lot of middle ground, there's a lot there that you probably wouldn't trust one or the other to handle for the other. And in this circumstance, and this is going to be highly controversial show, so if you don't like controversy or anything and having to do with modern politics, ignore this. But Dr. Oz, our current chief medical person in the United States, he's credentialed. He's actually a doctor. Dr. Oz is not just a TV doctor. No, he is actually a real doctor. He has a specialty in cardiothoracic surgery. And if you know anything about that, he knows his shit. Like, he is a groundbreaking genius when it comes to cardiothoracic surgery. He has done an amazing job with cardiothoracic surgery. However, he treats hearts and he does surgery. So, you know, I would trust him to work on my heart, the hearts of those who I love, but I probably wouldn't allow him to make policy based on dietary needs because that's not where his specialty is. His specialty is in heart, not diet. Diet and exercise and other things, those should be handled by specialists who actually pay attention to the documentation that is specifically designed for them to understand. I'm not saying that Dr. Oz can't know that information. What I'm saying is his current specialty as a cardiothoracic surgeon is not applicable in the circumstance when it comes to like diet, or neuropathy, or epidemiology, or I don't know, fucking bones. You probably couldn't do anything about. He probably couldn't do anything that John R. Brinkley would do. He probably wouldn't be, because he would realize that that's bullshit medicine as well. But anyway, the whole point being is that you don't want to cross hire people for different jobs just because they have one certification and might be a good fit in one area and they're really good at that thing. You probably don't want to hire them for a different task, because that can end up with incomplete or misconfigured scenarios where you have issues where things have been deployed or things have been implemented, but they've been implemented in the wrong way or against best practice or, anything else. Like, I'm going to flat out say it here. I'm not an expert in everything in IT. Whoop-de-doo. I'm sure those of you who are experts in IT have identified many, many, many errors that I've said across the entirety of the podcast. But the whole point being is that you can't treat individual silos of IT as if they're the broad scope of IT. The jack of all trades position of IT is going by the wayside because there is so much to focus on for each and every different silo of the industry. And that is where we need to go. We need to go to where we have these specialties within the industry. We do now have cybersecurity as a separate specialty in IT. We do now have DevOps as its own specialty within IT, but we still have a long way to go. We have printers, we have networking, we have operating systems, we have desktops, we have servers, we have data center, we have cloud, we have services, we have all of this different structure, which can all be distributed as a different level, different layer, different specialty within the industry. And that's where we probably need to focus. And again, it's not about trying to make this harder to get into, but really making it easier for somebody to focus on and get into their lane where they want to be. And it's not that one person can't do multiple things. I can work on printers. I can work on networks. Am I going to be the best at it? I don't know. Probably not. But I can work on them if I get there. But I also know enough to know where my boundaries are at, where my lack of knowledge is. I'm not going to try to set up a BGP because I've got no fucking clue how to do any of that shit. I'm going to admit it. I know what BGP is on a theoretical level. I know what it is. Have I ever implemented any BGP routing myself? No, never. Not in a million years. Haven't done it. Probably ain't going to do it ever. But I know what it is. So if I need BGP routing, I'm going to tell whoever I'm working with, hey, probably want to get somebody who specializes in BGP for just this purpose. Hey, this aside, having these structures and having these lanes will help us identify our industry, will help us split it off into the direction that we need it to go, whether it be a profession or whether it be a trade. We need to focus. We need to try to get there as an industry. It's something that we as an industry need to work on. I fully admit that. And again, we need to train to the standard which we hire. We can't expect those who we hire to be better prepared than those who we train internally. And we do need to train people internally. We do need to hire those who are coming in brand spanking new. We need to have entry-level positions that anybody can get hired into, just so that there's a stepping stone into the greater world of IT. There used to be that 10 years ago. It's slowly starting to disappear, maybe quickly starting to disappear. but we need to make sure that we have those jobs available for the next generation of folks coming through, because otherwise we're going to get pear-shaped, and this whole organization, as people age out and retire, is just going to get worse and worse and worse. And people are going to rely more and more on AI. We're going to have more and more outages, and everything's going to suck more because, hey, we decided to put testicles, goat testicles in scrotums and call it good, because gonads be gonads, bro. That's all I got for today, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Ah!